All right, here we go. Freeway Ricky Ross, welcome back. Still doing your thing out there, I see?
I'm trying, man.
Oh, you're not trying. You're succeeding. You got some big things in the works, and we'll talk about that later on in the interview. But I just kind of want to tackle a few of the big topics right now.
Yeah.
The first of which is Bill Cosby got his case overturned.
Yeah, he did.
Now, this is something that you're familiar with in terms of getting cases overturned.
Yeah.
Not what Bill Cosby went to jail for. Not that part. I ain't going there. But getting cases overturned.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that.
You know, for someone who has not gone through the legal system in the same fashion, how much of an anomaly is this in the legal system to get your entire case overturned?
Well, I mean, it don't happen too often. You know, more cases lose than not. Mm-hmm. In the feds, I think they say like 1% get their cases reversed.
Okay. But I think
he was
Cosby
in the state, though.
He was in the state, right?
He was in the state. The state has a little worse record. I'm not sure about Pennsylvania, you know, what their numbers are. But
worse, meaning that more people get their cases overturned?
Yeah, more people would get their cases overturned. The feds are more like, you know, it's a saying, if the feds arrest you, more than likely they got you. You know, they usually don't come in unless they have some solid evidence. But the things that they need to convict you are not as great as the state. You know, like the state needs like solid evidence, and the feds can do what they call they can draw pictures.
As you can see by this picture, he is clearly guilty.
Yes. And they allow the jury to also to piece the pictures together. You know, like we don't have a video camera, so you're not going to see the whole picture. So you got this picture and you got this, and you can infer that if this happened and that happened, that this could have happened.
Oh, okay. Now, does a panel of judges above the judge that convicted a person have to vote to overturn the case?
Correct. Okay. Usually 3 judges.
3 judges. So basically, so it has to go to the Supreme Court. In Bill's case, they had to go to the Supreme Court of the state of Pennsylvania.
Correct.
So 3 judges looked at this case and said, this should have never been tried. We're going to throw this out.
Exactly. From what I see, that he was granted immunity to testify by the prosecutor.
Exactly.
Who is the lawyer for the state, who was saying that we're going to prosecute you. This guy gave him immunity in order for him not to talk. I mean, in order for him to talk, to tell his story, to tell his side of the story. Otherwise, more than likely, Bill would have took the Fifth Amendment, and they would have got none of the evidence that they wanted. So in order to get some of the evidence, he said, okay, what we'll do is we'll make a deal with you that anything you say can't be used against you in the court of law.
Yeah.
And once they grant you immunity on that, then none of that evidence should have never been used.
Right. And I had Tom Mesereau, Bill Cosby's original lawyer, that proceeded over the case, that represented Bill when they lost. Mm-hmm. Right. He basically said this is the most unfair trial that he's ever, been part of.
I felt it was a total injustice. I felt the trial was so unfair, so prejudiced against him. I felt he had been denied due process. I felt race had something to do with it, although I couldn't prove it. And I was very, very upset.
And he explained how it was politically motivated because the prosecutor and the judge hated each other, were arch enemies for years. So when that judge had that prosecutor's paperwork in front of his desk, he said, oh, you granted him immunity? I'm tossing that out. We're going to allow it to actually...
We can't. The judge can't toss it out.
Right, but that's what he did.
Well, he was dead wrong.
And it took 3 years, and it went to the Supreme Court, and those 3 judges decided to toss it out.
Yeah, well, they did the right thing because if the prosecutor grants somebody immunity, then, I mean, really, if they stop giving immunity, it kills their whole system. The whole system of the courts would no longer work.
Yeah, who would cooperate if they
Nobody would cooperate.
It's like, what's the point? I'm just not going to say anything ever
Right. So that it basically it can't stand under their law that because I was granted immunity too before.
Aha. So did you use the same type of methodology to get off?
No. Mine was with the cops. When they got arrested, they wanted me to testify against the cops and tell them what the cops had did against me that was illegal. And in order for them to do that, they had to grant me immunity because if I get on the witness stand and start to talk about what the cops did to me, then the police's lawyers could ask other things that happened in my life that the prosecutor didn't know about or somebody didn't know about. And if they do, then those things could be charged against you. But if they grant you immunity, from that day on, everything that you did prior to that it can no longer be used against you under any circumstance.
Aha. Okay. But with you, it was a continuous criminal enterprise that you used.
That I got off with, yeah.
That you got off with,
yeah.
Right. Okay, got it. And in your case, was the case overturned or was it?
For the immunity?
Yeah.
No, I was granted immunity, but I still had to do some time.
Okay.
You know, like they could say for instance, in my case, in Cincinnati, it was for the Cincinnati case. And the Cincinnati prosecutor, he didn't agree with the L.A. people giving me immunity either. He was against it.
Okay.
Or no, it was the Cincinnati prosecutor that wanted the immunity. L.A. people was against it.
Yeah.
One didn't want me to have it, one did want me to have it. But once one give it to you, you're covered. It don't matter.
Right.
It doesn't matter what the other one says. So what mine was is they said, okay, you plead guilty to 49 keys of cocaine. And then the other 12 months for the 49 keys that we had you charged with or that we're going to charge you with, we'll throw those out. We'll forget about those. And that's how my immunity works. So immunity works different ways, you know, for different people.
Right, but once it's set,
it
has to be honored. And in this particular case, it wasn't honored, and they basically took the statement where I guess in the civil trial, Bill Cosby admitted to dropping someone in someone, you know, the girl's drink. So that became the basis. Well, actually, I mean, the whole case was really about that. You know, I mean, I
didn't really keep up with his case, but I do remember a little bit about it.
Yeah, I mean, other women came forward, whatever, but really the case that he got convicted of was this old case that he was granted immunity for.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which allowed him to settle and whatever else.
Well, they totally couldn't do that. I mean, once you're granted immunity, you know, it stands. And from what I understand, now other jurisdictions could prosecute you, but they can't use any of that information that they learn. And then if they go in and read that information, they can't even. It's crazy. Immunity is pretty solid. I mean, it's a pretty solid. I mean, that's why technically I can run around and say how many kilos I used to sell.
Because you're immunity, right?
You know, because they granted me immunity from all of my past, even though it's statute of limitation has run, but. You know, I was able to start to say how many kilos I had sold in the 90s, you know, when it still could be opened up. But it was only because they had granted me immunity.
Bill Cosby ended up doing 3 years, roughly, 2 years and some change. And now they're saying that he might actually sue the state of Pennsylvania.
Yeah, he might. Those are tough cases to win. I don't know, and then, you know, judges are immune from prosecution. I mean, immune from lawsuits. He can't sue the prosecutor, he can't sue the judge. Neither one of them would be held liable.
Well, he would sue the state, right? He would say that he was improperly imprisoned for 2.5 years, and you could turn around and say during that time he could have made $100 million. And
he probably could do that, but I mean, he looked pretty old to me. You know, and I don't think that he wants to spend his time tied up in court and depositions and.
I don't know, man. Bill seemed pretty pissed off.
I mean, it's something.
And he's got all the money in the world to do whatever he feels like. It's not like he really has to be hands on with hardly any of it. You know, just six his lawyers on it and just watch the chaos.
I think that's a long shot though for him suing.
Yeah,
and he may win, but it's lawsuits are draining, And if I was, if I was Bill's age, I think that what I would be wanting to do right now is enjoy the rest of my life, and just get on with my life.
Yeah, I mean, he's talking about going on a comedy tour.
Let's see who shows up.
Heard it's a 2-drink minimum.
I don't know about that. Let's see who shows up. Who knows?
Oh, man.
People may show up, though. I mean...
Oh, people will definitely show up. People were celebrating his release. In fact, he was actually, because we had interviewed, people like Boosie and people like Faison Love who spoke for Bill Cosby. And Bill Cosby's, official Instagram page was posting these videos. You know what I'm saying? So it looked like VladTV was kind of in support of Bill Cosby. And, in terms of my personal opinion... did he do it? Did he not do it? I did hear stories, from other people that he was doing stuff like this. But then again, you never know. These are 30-year situations. I don't know. At the end of the day, he used the legal system to free himself, and I applaud that.
Absolutely.
So however, whatever the reality is, or whether he really did it or not, he used the legal system, he got off, and now he can live out the rest of his life unless someone else hits him with some new charges. That's how I feel.
And that's the way it should be.
Yeah.
There's nothing else they can do about it. They can talk about it and try him in the media. But at the end of the day, it's over with. And
that's right. He's home eating Jell-O pudding, kicking his feet up. Well, since last time, Derek Chauvin has been sentenced to 22 and a half years for the murder of George Floyd.
Yeah.
And you and I were having interviews during the time of, all the uprising and the protests and everything else like that. And we've seen this time and time again. Like, for example, we talked about the Rodney King situation where everyone saw it, everyone was upset, and then the cops all got to walk away basically not guilty.
Right.
In this particular case, like I was really worried that if he would have gotten probation or something, or 2 years or something, there would have been mass rioting.
Yeah, I think it would have been too. But I'm glad that he him getting off would have been like the utmost disrespect, So
yeah, absolutely
to a whole nother level.
Other level.
We've never watched the execution live on TV. We actually got to see Floyd moving and begging for his life.
Right, because Rodney King walked away ultimately. Well, maybe not that particular day, but he was able to walk.
He was still alive.
He was still alive.
Yeah, I don't think if Rodney would have died, that they would have let those guys off. I hope that.
I don't know. This is what year? 1990? Was it 1 or something? I don't know. In that kind of climate, with the way police was getting away with everything. The fact that they walked away with no one got charged with nothing. I don't know. If they would have killed him, I could see him getting off back then.
Yeah.
I could see it.
Well, I don't know. I would hope that they wouldn't have let him off with that. But it's pretty tough, And as you know, I went to a case prosecuting cops, so I know how hard it is to prosecute cops. We had over 100 witnesses against the Freeway Task Force. And I think only one of them actually went to jail. The rest of them got probation because they got a hung jury, and the prosecutor didn't want to retry them, so they made them all deals. The only one went to jail, I believe, is Sobel, which admitted, to all of the charges that he was charged with.
And how much did he get?
I think he got 6 years.
Okay, that's a chunk. It's not forever, but it's.
Yeah, I guess, you
weren't happy with that?
Well, they really was drug dealers. They was drug dealers with badges. They would steal the drugs from one guy and plant them on somebody else, and who knows what else they was doing. They might have even been selling cocaine,
Yeah.
We don't know the whole scope of the story. Nobody has ever really dug in to really get the whole depth of it. But, if you're riding around with kilos of cocaine in your trunk to plant on somebody, to me, that's pretty...
Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, when you heard 22 and a half years, how did you feel as a black man in America?
It was a mixed emotion. You know, I was glad and disappointed. You know, I thought that he should have got more because his was premeditated. You know, it wasn't the type of murder. And I still didn't see all the evidence come out. You know, the fact that he worked at the same club as Floyd, you know, told me that maybe it was something prior to that day. You know,
Personal, yeah.
You know, something personal to that, and that would be a premeditated murder. Premeditated murder, you know, can give you a life sentence.
So you wanted a life sentence for him?
I thought he should have got a life sentence for, you know, for the kind of murder that he did, because he had plenty of times to stop. You know?
Oh yeah, I mean, people were pleading him to stop,
And people were
a
pleading
crowd of people was saying, "You are killing him. Please stop."
Exactly.
He just thoroughly ignored everyone, kept his knee on that man's back.
So that seems pretty premeditated to me. You know?
Right.
And then even after he stopped moving, he still kept his knee in his back.
Yeah, for like I think 2 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, a minute and a half, 2 minutes. He basically had his knee on a corpse, essentially. And you know, I mean, the prosecutor even pointed out that there were children watching, so that gives it a certain level of severity. You know, because now you're basically traumatizing children to a murder.
The world.
The world, ultimately. Yeah, but I'm talking about the people that were actually there to witness it.
Well, it's the same thing. You know, it affected us because we saw it in live time. You know,
Pretty
this
much,
is the first time that we ever actually saw the cops actually kill somebody in live time. I mean, I don't think that has ever happened before in the history of America. That
I mean, there's been shootings on camera, but not like a slow death.
right.
This.
Exactly.
Yeah, like
where a guy was
slow-
handcuffed. You got two guys holding his legs down.
Essentially
and-
tortured and killed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was hideous on every level, and you saw how America reacted to it.
Exactly.
And he got convicted, 22 and a half years. Now, in the state, what does that really mean? 22 and a half. How much time is he really going to have if he...
Well, most states give you 50% off. So he probably could get 10 years off with good behavior, maybe even less. You know, you have to check and see which state, because every state has different laws. You know, like say for instance in Texas, you only do a third of your time. So if you
Really?
if you get 20 years, you'll probably wind up doing maybe 7,
Yeah.
6.5, and then maybe with some halfway house or, you know, maybe some drug program or who else, you know, what other programs that they have in those particular states. Here in California, you know, if it's a non-violent crime, you can get 50% off.
Okay. So we're not quite sure.
No, I don't know.
It could be 11 years or it could be the full 22.
I doubt if it's the full 22. You know,
Okay.
Nowhere that I know of make you do day for day. You know, everywhere you go, you get good time. Even with the feds, you know, you get some good time.
Okay. And he's probably going to be in some PC type area. You can't put this guy in general population. He'll
No,
get
they're
killed.
probably, you know, the feds have. He may even
Well, he's
get.
not going to the Fed.
He could though.
Oh, really?
Yeah. If when you're a cop or something like that, they have systems where they allow them to come from the state, and then they have like federal joints that keep guys like that.
Because they're just unsafe.
It'll be unsafe for them to be in the general
right.
population.
I mean, how many black guys in prison want to be a hero by killing Derek Chauvin? I mean, come on now. Like, I mean, think about it. Nobody likes him in there. The Mexicans don't like him. You know, I mean,
Well, the skinheads will probably
skinheads will probably embrace him.
they'll probably embrace him.
Yeah, he'll probably have to get some swastika tattoos.
Yep.
You know,
He probably already had them. Probably already had them. You know, he just bring them out now.
you can bring him out. He could be a Nazi, a proud Nazi.
You know,
now.
a lot of us believe that the police force is another way of practicing racism. You know, you get to practice your racism without having to pay a price.
I actually just interviewed a dirty cop, a guy named Michael Dowd. Are you familiar with this guy?
I heard of the name.
There's a documentary called The 75 or The 75. It was essentially the most corrupt precinct in New York. It was in East New York, which was essentially the murder capital during that time.
Okay.
And it was like just the most corrupt precinct in all of New York. And this guy, Michael Dowd, was known as New York's, dirtiest cop. And he just sort of broke down what happened. So, he his dad was a fireman. He joined the police department. At first, it was cool, and he was doing his job. And then one day, he pulled over a guy, and rather than arresting him, he was like, "Well, I'd like a nice lobster dinner tonight." So the guy just gave him a couple $100,
and it was on.
And then then he would show up to a homicide, and there'd be a kilo of heroin. He'd take that for himself. And then he started working for the drug dealers. Right? He started working for one drug dealer crew called La Compañía, and the guy shorted him $700 from his weekly pay. And then so he basically started harassing the guys, and there was a hit out on him. But then he started working with a bigger drug dealer, and who paid him on time, and he basically would accompany them, give them police escorts on drug deals.
Wow.
He would find out when his bodega, drug spot would get busted, so he'd give them an early warning so they'd be able to clear everything out. Then he started buying and selling cocaine, and then using cocaine. You know what I mean? And at one point, to make the story completely crazy, is he was out on bail, okay? And he had this great idea to basically do a hit for some cartel for $500,000 and then take the money and leave the country with it. But his partner was wearing a wire the whole time.
Kenny puts the wire on. The entrapment thing comes up. This case shows up with $500,000 in cash. Now I say, great, I can pay my family back for the bail because they're going to lose their houses if I bolt. So I can pay my family back. We can take the 10 kilos, whatever's left, we whack it up, give half back to the Colombian drug dealer. And but it was supposed to be, and if you follow through on the film, it's supposed to be a push-in. The guy's supposed to show up with flowers, knock on the door, walk your way in. It's a woman, push it to the side, take the shit and go. The $500,000 and the 10 kilos. Well, Kenny kept moving the goalpost. Now that he's working with the feds, it went from a push-in with flowers to a kidnapping and then an execution. He kept moving the goalpost along the way. And I'm just going, yeah, whatever. Yeah, whatever. Because I don't give a fuck. But at this point, I just want to get that money so I can pay my parents for their homes that they're going to lose, my brother and my parents, and go to Nicaragua.
Wow.
That was pretty much the end of that. He ended up doing I think 12 years.
You got to interview one of the Freeway task force.
I would love to. You know him?
I don't know how to get in touch with him. We tried to get Polak.
Who's that?
On our documentary. He was one of the top ones. He was the LAPD.
Okay.
Yeah, and he cussed him out.
What about the guy that went to prison?
Nobody knows where he's at. We've been trying to find him. I wish I could find Sobel.
Wasn't there a documentary that was done about you? Wasn't there one of the cops?
One of them was on there.
It's a Spanish-looking dude.
Yeah, he was on there. He wasn't a high ranker though. He was, he was one of the lower guys.
Okay, we can get him. I don't know if do you still know?
Yeah, I know him. I got to find out where his phone number is though. But he's not the one. The ones you want though, you got to get the big ones if you want.
Yeah,
yeah.
You think they're really going to talk though?
No, they may not.
That's what I'm saying. They've.
Yeah, I heard Polak is a investigator in San Diego now.
Oh, he still works for a police department?
No,
I
heard he's a private investigator.
Private investigator? Yeah, what else is he going to do?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, Derek Chauvin is in prison right now.
That's a
He's going
good
to be
thing.
there for years to come. I think it sends a very clear message to police nationwide that there is going to be serious implications if you decide to kill people on the job.
And I'm glad. I hope they even bring in some better laws. I think the police should be held to a higher standard than a normal citizen.
I agree.
Because if you take an oath to protect and to serve, then if you turn into corruption,
yeah,
then that should be more severe than somebody who than just a kid on the street who don't have anything going for himself. He don't have a job, and he gets into trouble. That's one thing, but here you are, somebody who's respected and sworn, been through training, and then if you go and do the same thing, then you should be held to a higher standard.
Right, because you have an advantage over the kid in the street.
Correct.
You got a badge
And a gun.
and a gun
And backup.
and backup, helicopters, tanks. You know,
So you should be held to a higher
everything.
standard. And I
Bulletproof vest. No, right. And from what I understand, you can correct me if I'm wrong. When it comes to court cases, a police witness is given a higher level of I don't know the word I'm looking for, but basically it's taken more seriously.
it is, absolutely.
Yeah, a policeman or woman getting on that stand and saying what happened. I believe the judge even instructs the jury to take their word over just a random person, a random citizen.
They do.
So that's what I'm saying. If you get that advantage in a court of law, there should be something on the other side that if you go the other way.
I agree. And I always wonder why don't they do that? But, you know, the system has flaws, you know.
It does. But ultimately, it is better than pretty much every other system out there. If you look at the world.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where you get, you know, where you don't have, you know, like go to Russia and see the type of craziness that goes on in those courts. You know, I remember I just interviewed this cyber hacker guy who was locked up with one of Putin's enemies, well, an associate of one of Putin's enemies, who was the richest man in Russia, who was worth $15 billion. And he didn't want to work directly with Putin. He actually wanted to compete against him. And he got put in prison. His whole fortune got wiped out, like poof, just like that.
Wow.
You know, I mean, you can't really do that in America.
No, well, not really, not that I know of.
Not quite like that. Not an actual, like, you know, real business person, you know, with a real company and everything else like that. You know, you can't, you know, if the president dislikes the person, they can't just be thrown in prison and all their money taken. You know, I mean, I've never seen that before.
No, I haven't either. I can't
Yeah,
say that.
exactly.
That I have saw anybody. I mean, as far as myself, you know, I've been through quite a bit with the courts. You know,
Yeah.
But for the most part, it was bearable.
Right. And to be fair, you were also a criminal.
Yeah, I was a criminal.
Yeah.
I was a criminal, but you know, you see people get on the witness stand and lie, and you know, and I guess that's part. I mean, you know, the courts can't tell if they're lying or not.
Yeah.
You know, so I guess that's just part of it.
It's just part of the game. The founder of BET, Robert L. Johnson, who was the first black billionaire in America, has called for $14 trillion in reparations. Do you see that actually happening in your lifetime?
No.
Why is that?
This country giving blacks $14 trillion in reparations. What they haven't even given us an apology. You know, nobody's even apologized for slavery. So, and I don't think that that's what's needed anyway. I don't think that we need money to get us out of our situation. I think that we need to have a revolution of our minds, the way we think about economics, the way we think about ourselves. You know, we have to look at ourselves and see what is going on. I mean, we make enough money right now, you know, blacks to literally do whatever they want to do.
As a whole, though, if you look at the overall salary of black people as a whole compared to other races, yes, there are black millionaires, there are a few black billionaires now, but as a whole, let's take a look.
But you know, I go with, it's not how much money you make, it's what you do with the money that you make is the important thing. Yeah, we're probably the most unemployed, but we make 1.2 trillion, I think, a year comes through our hands.
Okay, here we go. The median black male income was around $24,000 compared to the median white non-Hispanic male income, which is $37,000. $24,000 versus $37,000.
And they talking about the ones that work.
Yeah.
And most blacks ain't working.
You're looking at 54% difference in wage. Quite a bit.
Yeah, but it's not. And see the way I look at life, though, I don't really look at it as how much money you make. You know, with me, it's always, what are you doing with that money that you make?
This is very true. But to be fair, doing something with your money only works if you're making enough to cover your
No,
expenses.
that's not true though.
How much money can you invest if you have, let's just say you're a single mother with 2 children, right? You're making, you take
You're on
this
welfare.
male.
You're on welfare.
No, let's take welfare out of the equation, because once you're talking about welfare, then you're talking about a whole different
Okay.
system. But let's just say you're, the working poor. A woman, now this is a black male, so female might even be a little bit lower, but let's just keep it at that. You're making $24,000 a year. You have 1 or 2 children, and you don't have a husband or someone who lives with you who's contributing.
Right.
How much can you really save?
Very little.
Very little, if anything. In fact, you're probably going to go into debt to try to make ends meet.
Well, what you have to do though is you have to rearrange your expenses. You have to find a cheaper way to live.
Right. Maybe move somewhere else.
Maybe move in. Maybe rent a room out for a while. I mean, you have to get your expenses down off the bat. If
Right.
if you're not making enough to pay your bills, then you have to change something about what you're doing.
Right. My point is that you could cut a few corners here. You could try to get a second job. Which is what people do. They could find a
Well, you
side
can't do
hustle.
that if you got kids and you don't have nobody to watch your kids.
Well, there you go. You're stuck with that. But what I'm saying is, as someone who invests heavily, that's probably stock investing for me transformed everything about my life, right? But that only happened when I started making real money. When I was still kind of paycheck to paycheck, hustle to hustle, I didn't have anything to invest.
Right.
It was all going back into my rent, into my car, into my gas, into my stomach. You know what I mean? And if there's anything left over, you do want to have a little bit of fun
you gotta
with
be
it.
we gotta be strong enough even to change what goes into our stomach.
Yeah.
One of the reasons I only eat once a day is because that helps me save money. That cuts down on my expenses. Not only is it healthy for me.
I think it's more healthy than saving money for you.
Well, at first though, it was good that I only ate once a day.
Right.
But
these days,
I don't have to worry about
you don't have to
today.
worry about the
But it was
extra
a time-
expense of breakfast and dinner. All right.
It was a time that it did though.
I got you.
And,
right.
and what I'm saying is
for me also, there was points where I couldn't afford a meal. Like I get it. I was homeless at one point. I get it. I get it. But at the end of the day, you do need a certain level of disposable income in order to invest the money. That's why I've always felt there's no such thing as a middle class. You either make a certain amount of money that you then invest, which turns into more money, or you're just spending what you're making and you're essentially poor regardless of what your salary is. You could be making $200,000 a year and be poor.
Absolutely.
You could be making $70,000 a year, and after a few years you could really be rich because you've made smart investments and everything else like that.
Yes.
That's how I look at it.
And that's the way it is.
Right.
And that's the way we
But at 20
as a community have to start thinking like that.
But at 24,000, neither one of these equations actually work. You're basically just poor. Right?
Well, if you're making 24,000 and you stay in Cleveland, Ohio, where the rent's only $500 a month, you doing all right for yourself.
Until the kids come around.
Well, even with the kids, you still can be all right even with the kids, because now you can take some of that money and use it to invest in yourself.
Right.
And in my personal opinion, when I say invest in yourself, the first thing you do is you start reading books. You start to educate yourself.
Right.
Because without an education, you can't make any money. People do not pay people who are not smart. If you don't know anything, people are not going to pay you. The reason I make money now is because I've learned more about the businesses that I'm doing than I knew when I got out of prison. When I got out of prison, I had a little game, you know what I'm saying? But I didn't know as much as I knew about marijuana then as I know today, or some of the other businesses that I do. So what I'm saying is that we have to start to educate ourselves.
Well, right, because beyond knowing about whatever the product is that you're selling, you also have to know how to run a business, right? You have to know how to pay taxes. You have to know, if you have a staff, you have to know about human resources. You know what I mean? You have to know about management. You have to know how to, keep the talent that you have. You have to worry about lawsuits.
And before that, you got to learn how not to steal from yourself. A lot of people steal from themselves. They'll go into money and say, oh, well, I'm going to buy this, but I'm going to put it back.
Right. They never do.
And they can't. They don't have a means. You don't have enough to pay already. And here you go adding another bill.
Right.
You went to a concert that you didn't have the money to go to the concert.
Right.
So when I say those are stealing, that's stealing from yourself.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, I thought the funniest thing I ever saw, this is a couple months ago, some girl who went to All-Star Weekend didn't have enough money to actually get home. So she started a GoFundMe page for someone to donate so she could get home. Like, you went out there knowing you don't have enough money to get home, but you still go out there.
Well, people don't care. So when you have people who, and with me, Vlad, because I go around and I talk to people about money. Mm-hmm. And when I go to these engagements, I'll be shocked sometimes. There don't be nobody hardly there. It might be 50 people, 60 people, 25 people. And I'm like, what the hell is going on with these people? Here they are. You got a guy that got out of prison. I had $200 when I got out of prison. And I'm trying to show you how I was able to take that and turn that into what I have today, which the building I'm working on right now could make me $6 million every 2 months.
Wow.
I literally would be on my way to being one of the wealthiest people in the country. And I already got my other 2 or 3 projects already lined up right behind those, and I see that these opportunities are out here, but if you haven't educated yourself, if you haven't learned how to open up your mind to opportunity, then you become what I call confined inside of your own mind. Mm. And no matter how much money they give you, if they gave you the $14 trillion, all you're going to do is give it right back.
Right, because me and Charleston White got into this heated argument. I don't know if you know what Charleston is. It's a guy from Dallas, outspoken guy, controversial and so forth. And we talked about this whole tirade he went on because Jackie Chan, who's worth $400 million, announced that he's not going to be leaving that money for his son as an inheritance, right? Because his son is, from what I understand, a fuck up, hasn't really done anything, and he just doesn't feel like leaving that amount of money to someone that doesn't know how to handle that.
They're gonna kill themselves.
Right. And then
OD.
He's gonna OD. And Charleston was like, no, fuck that. He if he gonna fuck up that money, that's his to fuck up. And he goes.
Not his.
Right. He goes to this whole story about how his dad, who he never really knew, left him $20,000, and he took that $20,000. He went to college with it. He turned his life around. He said that his whole life changed for that $20,000.
Man, the inheritance that my father left me, I honor him for that. I regret not reaching out to him so he can know his grandchildren. He made it right, man, in the end. You see what I'm saying? He made it right. I resented him.
Yeah.
Passed him up one day, saw him on him, passed him up. Didn't even stop. But when he died, and I realized, and he didn't intend to leave me that money. He had no intention on leaving me that money. He had about $18,000, $20,000 in the bank. Because I'm his only child, I got that money. Now he got a legacy. Man, my father left me something. He might not have done nothing for me in my lifetime, but in the end, he made it right. I was able to go get my bitch out of jail. Now she can come back and get to the baby. I started going to college. I enrolled myself into community college because I was able to take some pressure off me with that inheritance he left me, homie. Then I went on and enrolled as a pre-law student at Texas Wesleyan University because he left me something and it took some pressure off of me. So I speak from a cultural perspective when I say that and a personal experience.
I said that's all good and well, but 20,000 is not 400 million. This is a vastly different amount of money. And I mentioned the book that we both love, The Richest Man in Babylon, right?
Oh my goodness.
Remember when the king
He sent his son out and tried.
sent his son
he tried
out.
him. Gave him a trial. He gave him a lesson.
Exactly. That's what I was talking about. Because you have to learn, I went from being dead broke, of course, to having a first job out of college where I made like $70,000 a year. I fucked all that money off. Started my own company, started making hundreds of thousands. Fucked that money off again, went broke. And then took me 10 years to rebuild. And then, the lessons of going broke and messing up so much money was so ingrained in my mind that at the point that I got to now having hundreds of thousands to touch, then going to millions of dollars to touch, I had to learn how to build up to that. If you give someone who's never seen $1 million $1 million, what's damn near every human being going to do? Let's go buy a Ferrari. Or I'm going to buy a big house. I'm going to splurge
With no
on,
driver's license.
Yeah, I'm going to splurge it on. I'm going to go hit the mall up. That money could be gone in one day, very very easily.
Well, the way I look at it, and I felt the same way that he felt at one time. Like, damn, you ain't gonna leave all that money to your kids. And then after I read The Richest Man in Babylon, and I started to think about it, it's like, well, here I am. I'm your dad. I got all these connections. If you haven't taken any of that information that I have and been able to take yourself and make something of yourself with all of that, I think one of the first people that I heard was Warren Buffett. I don't think Warren Buffett's going to leave his kids any money.
What he did, I'm glad you mentioned that, and I actually read his book, and I've seen a lot of interviews and so forth. This is what he did. When the kids were full grown, he gave each of them the equivalent of $1 million in Berkshire Hathaway stock. It was a good amount of money, but not enough money that you just completely go off the rails and mess up the rest of your life. And people treated it differently, right? Because he had a few kids. One of the kids, I think, was a music composer. He did a lot of stuff for MTV. He put that money into his business, and he built his musical business. Other people, one of his other kids kind of went into farming or whatever else. One of the other kids, I think, like the daughter, kind of chipped away at the money over the course of her lifetime and, never really made a lot, but was able to use it. But his billions of dollars, that's all being given away to charity. He's not giving it to his kids.
Right.
And to be honest, none of his kids, I don't think any of his kids even became rich. I think they all just kind of were middle class. You know what I mean? Because $1 million won't last you your whole life.
Yeah, but they still, they got the name.
They got the name.
I mean, when you Browthaway Hurt, you walk into the bank and you say, hey, I'm Browthaway Hurt, the president is going to treat you different.
Right.
So if I feel that if somebody is not wise enough to capitalize off of that, then they're not wise enough to be worth $400 million.
I agree. I personally think that he needs to give that money to like a hospital, maybe a university, or just an organization that has a strong track record of, doing good with that money. Like for example, during the George Floyd thing, we donated $10,000 to the NAACP. And a lot of people are like, oh, why did you give it to them? And it's like, NAACP has decades of doing the right thing. Decades. And shout out to Bun B, who's the head of he's now one of the heads of the Houston chapter of the NAACP. Me and him had a long conversation about it, about how maybe the young people don't, think that that's their fathers and grandfathers.
Really, that's really what money is for, to do good, to take
Right.
it out and help other people, I just can't wait till I get my project finished so I can start to really show people what they're supposed to be doing with money, because I don't believe that most of our rich people don't know what to do with money. They think it's supposed to be put on the wall and keep the stats. I look at it totally different. I think that it's something to be creating jobs, to help people have places to stay, feeding people. And if you're not doing that with your money, then to me, you're just fucking it up anyway.
Well, money has to be liquid. You have to treat it like an actual liquid that moves around and flows and everything else like
Absolutely.
that. Having a whole bunch of cash in your bank account in a savings account does absolutely nothing. Investing in companies does something. Investing in yourself does something. Investing back into your own company, hiring more staff, building more buildings, building more studios, signing artists, whatever your business is,
You're putting it back into the world.
You're putting it back in the world. You're employing other people. Like we're right now, we have a staff of 14 people, 14 full-time people work for VladTV, the biggest the company has ever been. And it's like I could sit back and say, 14 families are getting supported off of this.
That's good.
Off of this. Like 14 people get to pay their rent every month. I give all of them health insurance, dental insurance, vision. If they have classes, they all have life insurance. You know what I mean? They have paid vacations and so forth, and they get to live comfortable lifestyles. They get paid very fairly. They have job security. When the pandemic hit, nobody got their salary lowered. Nobody got laid off. I had to dig a little bit into our savings to make sure that things were going around smoothly. But I told everyone, like, yo, I got you.
And that's the way it's supposed to be.
Keep doing your job. Let me lead the company the way I have been, and you guys will be okay. And a year and a half later, everyone's okay. In fact, the company grew. Well, you actually have a millionaire club?
Yeah.
I tried to find it. I couldn't really find it.
I think the website is down, but it just came. The idea just came to me one day, man. I was just kicking it, and I was like, Rick, the guys around you, they really don't have much to worry about because you're going to make sure they good. But why don't you help more people?
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you show other people how you were able to take, getting out of jail with $200 and even though, when I got out, I went through a few things too. I was technically homeless, not actually living on the block, but technically I was homeless. We lost my mom's house. You seen the documentary where the marshals put us out. Yeah. We moving all the furniture out the house. Well, I got lucky. I had a friend that was managing some apartments, and he allowed us to live in that apartment. But technically, we were what they call that, trespassing or
trespassing. Yeah,
trespassing. Squatting. Yeah, squatting. I was giving him $100 a month, for doing it, but I knew that was nowhere near what that place was worth.
Yeah.
So I went through a state, of not being able to support myself, but I never stopped moving forward. And I'd already had in my mind when I left prison that I may go through this. I knew when I was in prison, I knew who I used to get my letters from. I know who used to take my phone calls, so I know where my support was coming from. So I didn't have any wild expectations of somebody taking me in the house and buying me a new car and, putting $50,000
putting
in
you
my
on a
pocket.
private jet like Bobby Schmurder. It's funny how you see these rappers that that don't snitch and get out of prison. They're just like private jet. Oh, let's take you to the jewelry store. Oh, here's a new Phantom. But most people that get out of prison just come out broke.
Yeah.
And fuck.
And I came out worse than that. I came out to a house, to a family that was dysfunctioning. My mom had took one of those crazy mortgages out. Her house note was $3,500 a month. And when I got home, the first thing that went through my mind was, oh, your mom finna be homeless. You got to save her house. So I started wrestling with $3,500 a month, trying to get lawyers, and
couldn't do it.
I couldn't do it. It was rough.
Yeah.
When we lost the house,
yeah,
and I was sitting in that apartment, I was kind of at peace again, and it was like, okay, now that's over. You can start working on your plans that you had planned to do while you was in prison, because that kind of put my plan on hold. Every dime that I went, kind of like you saying, the person who doesn't make enough money to make ends meet. Mm-hmm. I was living that.
Yeah,
but I also knew that something was gonna have to change. I was always looking to make more money and to up myself. So that's what we had to start doing.
Well, I remember you mentioned some of our other interviews that there were people that you had property. You put property in their names. I don't know if there's any cash that you put aside or not. I don't know if there's any statute of limitations on that. But those people that you did that for, who ultimately just kept the properties and kept the money, None of them were trying to break you off something, or
Nah.
at all, huh? They were like, okay, look,
I wasn't
got
as
this.
fortunate as some people.
I got this $1 million property. I'm not going to give it back to you, but here's 50,000.
No.
That just wasn't happening.
No.
Was there a
Nothing.
certain level of like, I want to do something to this person? Like,
Oh yeah, you feel like that at times, you know.
Yeah.
But I ain't crazy. I think real well.
right, you go right back to prison again.
Go right back to prison
Forever.
No. I never thought about collecting anything from anybody. When I was in prison, it's funny when I was first sitting there and I started to lose all my properties and I'm seeing stuff, just like vanish. Houses I owed 20-something thousand on getting foreclosed on, and I'm like, oh my goodness. I'm pulling my hair out in my cell and I'm running to the walls and I'm like, oh, you're gonna lose everything. You're gonna get out of here. But then, I kind of pulled myself together and I told myself that I started with nothing in the cocaine business. I started with, I had 125, my boy had 125. And even to the point, where it came in prison that my boy wasn't my boy no more. Mm-hmm. I had to deal with that. Like, I got a dude that used to would jump in front of a bullet for me. He ain't like that no more. It ain't even, like, we hardly even talk anymore. You know what I'm saying? So it's like when you start to come to these realizations that all of the things that you had are no longer that way, then you go back into yourself.
I mean, there wasn't a level of like, look, I've had lots of situations in my life where I told someone that I would pay him a certain amount of money, but then, shit happens, situations change, they change, whatever else. And you could basically say, whatever. Yeah, we said that, but, I could justify it and say, I'm not going to pay you back for these reasons, and you're just going to have to hold that. But I've always felt like, as long as you do the right thing, even if the other person doesn't do the right thing, if you do the right thing, if I give someone my word that I'll do something for them, I always stand behind it. That was one of the principles that VladTV was formed on, was like, okay, no matter what, we make payroll every month. Everyone gets paid first before we do. Before we take any profits out, whatever, I'm the 100% owner. Before I take anything for myself, everyone gets paid first. And that's the way I've always been with everyone. People could talk shit about me and call me the police, whatever else. But the one thing that people can't say is that Vlad ripped me off or Vlad owes me money. You never hear that because it just doesn't happen.
Right.
In my business life and my personal life. If I told you I got this amount of money for you, when it's time for you to collect, you have the full amount.
And that's what it should be. And I try to do the same thing. Right. And there's been times that, a few people I owe some money. There's a few. I ain't going to say that I done paid everybody, but I still have the intention on paying them. I have never said that I am never going to pay you what I owe you.
Yeah.
I'm not in position right now to take care of that debt, but I'm like you on when it comes to that. I want to pay people to help me. I don't look at people who do me favors as somebody weak. Like a lot of people, you do them a favor, they look at that as being weak.
Yeah.
I don't look at it like that. I feel that you did me a favor, and the people that I owe, I still talk to them. I still call them. They call me. I take their call. Hey man, I ain't got it yet. Here's $10. Here's $20. I can give you that. What I got in my pocket right now. But in the long run, I plan on taking care of it. But in my situation, I believe that what happened with me is that I lost my powers. I became in jail what they call an empty bottle, where when you no longer have value to people, they kind of get rid of you. You're no longer of use to them. They thought. But even when I was in prison, I had value. I did stuff. The movie 100 Kilos, I put that whole piece together. I got the money for him, and I did everything for him to put that movie together. It may not have been appreciated, but I was still able to create some value for myself. One of the things I found out when you're in prison is that you lose your value. You can't produce the way that you used to. And when you can't produce, people have a tendency to lose faith in your message.
I mean, yeah, you're in prison. what can you do? It's essentially your life stops.
It kind of did, right?
To a lot of people.
It kind of does, Vlad. When I was sitting in prison, right, and I don't know, I'm kind of a guy that I like to compete. If I play basketball, I want to beat the best. I'd want to beat the Bulls if I would have played. When they had Michael Jordan. So when I was in prison and I was sitting there and I wanted to compete with all these guys. The Puffies, the Russell Simmons, the Bill Gates. I didn't remember none of them. Right now, I want to compete with Jeff Bezos. I want to catch Jeff Bezos. I want to be the one to buy Amazon. That's one of my goals right now. That's my new goal.
Right. It's not actually for sale, though. It's a public company.
Right, so you can buy it.
Well, you can buy stock.
If you own the most stock, you own the company.
Yeah, yes.
You buy the vote, you buy the most votes.
Right. Technically, yes.
Technically,
but
yes.
Amazon, let's just
I mean, you got to dream though.
Everyone got to dream.
You know what my people used to tell me when I was little, and my mom don't really know how much she affected me. When she used to say that, she say, "Shoot for the stars, and you just might hit the moon."
Right. Do you know how much Amazon's actually worth right now? I have the exact amount based on the number of shares outstanding versus
but those are just numbers. Once you learn how to play the game, numbers don't even mean that. Like right now with this building I got, it was just numbers.
Right.
It was nothing but numbers.
Well, you know what this number is?
Probably around 500 billion or something.
Yeah, you wish. 1.85 trillion. You got a few more weed bales to sell to get to that point.
But I don't think
1.85 trillion with a T.
I understand, and I don't think it's going to be done with weed. Weed is just a seed money.
I'm just joking.
I understand.
All I'm saying is that's an amount of money that no human being. I mean, because Jeff Bezos is only worth like $200 billion. Jeff Bezos cannot buy Amazon. I'm just saying. I'm just putting it out there.
Okay.
I'm not trying to rain on your parade.
No, I know.
I'm not trying to stomp on your dreams.
And you're not the first one. When I did the interview with Jesse Katz when I was in prison, you read the article, and he thought I was crazy.
Yeah.
Getting out, you're gonna be telling politicians what to do. Oh well, yeah, I helped write the bill for Los Angeles marijuana. I'm helping do Detroit right now with their marijuana laws. So it's only the way you perceive things to be is what they are. It's not necessarily a reality is your reality. And my reality may not be everybody's reality. And the way we look at the world is totally different.
Right, because they say that you made roughly $1 billion in cocaine. Is that accurate?
No, not me making. Money that went through my hands, more than $1 billion.
So you moved more than $1 billion of cocaine.
Yeah.
And they're saying that...
A worth of cocaine.
Worth of cocaine.
Yeah.
They're saying that you made roughly $300 million in profit.
I didn't make that kind of money, no.
So that's not true?
No.
Okay. So if you moved
my profit margin was much smaller than when the government calculates a kilo of cocaine, they give it the higher end and say for instance, when at the highest time I was selling cocaine, I made maybe $12,000 off a kilo.
And a kilo is how much?
At that time, probably about 45,000.
Okay. So 12 divided by 45, you're making about 25%.
Yeah.
23%, roughly. So if you made $1 billion, if you moved $1 billion, that's roughly 240 million. Still a lot of money.
Nah, I don't believe I don't believe I made that much, but
you said that you've touched more than $1 billion in terms of product that
went through my hands. Yes.
$2 billion?
Well, if you figure, my last 2 years I was doing $1 million every day. Some days $3 million. Before that, I was doing $500,000 every day for maybe a year. Before that, I was doing $200,000 to $300,000 every day. Before that, $50,000, $60,000. So this went on for 8 years. So when you do the numbers, it gets
It's a lot of money.
It gets kind of staggering.
Yeah. And there were people that were doing it at a higher level than you.
Absolutely.
You were just America.
Yeah.
You were just primarily the West Coast or nationwide?
I had about 5 or 6 states.
Okay. So the guys that were supplying you in wherever that is, Colombia, wherever else.
Nicaragua.
So Pablo Escobar was worth way more.
Yeah, and they got the coke different. See, it's different when you can get the coke for $2,000 and you take it and you sell it for,
because you're growing it.
Right, and you sell it for 15 or 20,000. Your money is easier to calculate.
Right.
It's just like right now, even with the weed business, the money that I'm gonna be making with the building is gonna be more easier for me to keep up with, per se, because now you get your money 2,000 at a time instead of
15,000.
No, instead of $5 off a bag.
I feel you.
It's a little different,
Right? Because right now you still have to buy marijuana from the growers.
Correct.
And you're about to be the grower.
Correct.
Okay. Because like TK Kirkland was on my show recently, and he was talking about how when he was opening up for Cash Money, he said there was this one time where he was with Birdman. Birdman goes to the Bentley dealership and buys 7 Bentleys right there at one time. And what TK said, and him and his friends would sit around and go, oh shit, are we going to get a Bentley too? Like, but he said something that really struck me. He said he got to see a man that truly did not respect money.
We all get up early. We all go to breakfast. Now, baby got literally about 800 people he taking shopping. It's a true story. And we are going from store to store on the main street in New Orleans down there. I forgot the main street where all the stores are. As we go from there, we're on the highway. Baby stops at a Bentley car dealership. Me and Ron is, looking at each other. Baby buys about 7 Bentleys at one time.
Wow.
Me and Ron said, don't look at this motherfucker, yo. He might get, you think you might get lucky. Like, they're going to get us a car. We kicking it. We're like, oh, shit. We ain't get the car, but for the moment, it was a good feeling because he was a man who didn't respect money. I'm serious. That man didn't respect money.
For someone to just buy 7 Bentleys all at once, and you're talking about what, maybe 200,000 a car? You're like, oh, what?
Yeah, 1.4 million.
Yeah, $1.5 million right there, off of just flashy cars that depreciate as soon as you sign that check. That he truly did not respect money. And luckily for Birdman, he kept making more money.
Well, and then it's according to how he bought the cars. Those cars could become assets.
Not really. How could they become
What?
assets?
I mean, a lot of people, they see you driving a Bentley, they want to give you money.
Yeah, there's that. I mean, he's the number one stunner, and it's a word for him. He attracts.
I mean, in the entertainment business, you could that could be considered as a part of your of your outfit. Like the same thing I'm finna do. I'm finna do the same thing for my boxers. I'm finna go buy them Ferraris and Bentleys and all that stuff because it's part of the makeup. It's part of the stuff that they need to have people want to come to their fights.
Listen, I talked to my tax guy the other day, and I was like, "Can I write off a Richard Mille watch, like a $250,000 watch?" And he said, "Well, if you use it in your business, if you wear it during interviews or on the red carpet, and you're not just wearing it every day as an everyday kind of thing, then yes, that is an actual business expense. That's part of your attire, and yes, it is ridiculously priced, but you could actually justify it as a real business expense."
Yeah.
So that's how you could justify the Ferraris and the custom jewelry and everything else like
and
that.
the videos, they use them in the videos.
Yeah.
And people like to see. I mean, it's crazy to me, but you have kids on the street that rap their ass off but they can't sell 10 tickets.
Right.
Why? They don't have no money. Nobody wants to come here. Nobody with no money. You know, it's only, watch how my status is finna change over the next 4 months. You watch how I'm gonna go, my social media, right now I'm at like 242. Now you watch in about 4 months, when I get my first harvest off of this grow,
All right.
watch how it changes. Because that's how people are. People want to be around success. Even if they can't benefit from it, they would rather be around somebody successful rather than struggle to become successful themselves.
I feel you. I mean, do you feel that in your heyday, when millions and millions of dollars were coming through your operation every day, that you actually respected money? Or did you get to a point where money was...
No, I didn't really respect it. You know, I'm still too loose with money. You know, it was a joke that used to go around. Everybody used to want to take my clothes to the cleaners. And I'd be, why y'all want to take my clothes to the cleaners? And they say, oh, you always leave money in your pockets. So, you know, when you have money, you just have a tendency to let some of it just flow. And I think that's good for the economy, you know, not to be so tight with your fists, you know.
Yeah. I try to overtip all the, you know, like the guy that washes my car, I always overtip him. The woman who cleans my house, I always overtip her. Like, you know what I mean? Like people around me.
Yeah, share the wealth.
Yeah.
Share the wealth.
Because I figure, listen, that'll build a certain level. I mean, number one, I'm helping them because they, you know, they're good to me. And it builds a certain level of, I think, loyalty and so forth. You know, if they have a chance to steal from me, they'll at least think, hey, you know, this guy's been generous with me the whole time, so I shouldn't do that. You know, and yeah, I mean, once you start making a certain amount of money, you just lose some of it.
How old is Amazon?
How old is Amazon?
Yeah.
Now, in terms of when they launched or when they went public?
When they launched, when he started the company.
1994.
So how old is it?
Well,
24 years old.
Well,
No, 26.
21 plus 6, 27. 27 years old. In fact, he just retired on the anniversary of when he launched it.
So it's still a young company.
Yes. And they overtook Walmart, which nobody thought was going to happen.
Well, Sam predicted it.
Sam Walton?
Yeah.
Well, he said that... You read his book?
Come
yeah,
on.
we both read his book. Yeah.
Like 3 of them.
Great book. Great book. But he said, will there ever be another Walmart? He said, absolutely. He said, I absolutely see another Walmart popping up and even overtaking us. And, you know, ultimately, someone like Jeff Bezos had the vision to say, hey, you know, we're going to start selling books. But what we're really going to do is sell everything over the internet.
Well, he probably didn't know that when he started, though.
I think he did.
You think he did?
Yeah, that's the whole point. Yeah, I read his book.
I never read Jeff's book.
Yeah, it was someone who wrote a book about him that was kind of close to the situation. But yeah, he knew exactly what he was doing early on.
But see, there's somebody that has an advantage even that Jeff Bezos don't have.
Absolutely.
See, Jeff is good. He's good.
Well, he's done. He's retired. He's building spaceships now.
Yeah, but he I'm saying with his vision, though, what he created, there's some other levels to what he's doing, I believe.
Absolutely. Like, people always ask, you know, did I know that VladTV was going to be as successful as it is now, whatever else? And I say yes, because I remember at the time, this was, you know, I launched in 2008. And I was doing video already, but I was pushing it out on DVDs. And that was going away every month, right? I mean, less and less people were buying DVDs, just like less and less people were buying CDs. And as soon as I saw the YouTube model, like, okay, you can make these videos, you can make money off running ads on them, and these videos can be embedded on other websites, and you make money when they're embedded. I saw it. I saw the vision of it all. I said, oh, this is going to be the biggest video platform on earth. This is going to be bigger than DVDs, TVs, the networks, everything. This is going to be the biggest thing ever. Let me stop doing mixtapes. Let me stop DJing. Let me stop doing documentaries and all the stuff that was paying me. And I said, I'm just going to do this because I see the vision early. And I'm going to drop a video every day. Everyone thought I was stupid. a video every day. They don't want to watch all that shit. No, just drop the whole video and whatever. No, I'm going to drop a little clip every day, and every day people are going to come back, and I'm going to build this business out, and I'm not going to focus on all this other stuff that's got a bigger paycheck associated with it. I'm going to own everything. And 13 years later, it's like, yeah, no surprise here. But I saw it early. And, I studied computer science at UC Berkeley, so I understood sort of some of the technology behind it and everything else like that. I'm like, okay, I got it.
So you took action.
I took action. I literally stopped everything. And I went without. I struggled. Like, I was having problems paying my bills. But I'm like, okay, if I keep at this, eventually it will grow and catch up. And, recently, I put up a list of the biggest hip-hop media YouTube channels. And we're number one. And it's not because I feel we're number one, is we actually looked up the numbers. Through
Congratulations.
Thank you. bigger than Power 105, Hot 97, Power 106, Genius.
So where that put me? I'm one of your biggest guests.
That's right.
So I'm one of the biggest guests.
Shout out to Boosie. Boosie actually is our biggest guest.
Boosie, your biggest guest?
Boosie's the biggest guest. You do your thing. You do your thing though.
Well, I'm in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Second or third.
You're somewhere in there. But and then you gotta regular guests. You always have to rethink the model. Chopping up videos. Now we have memberships, which is like the biggest growing part of the company. People actually pay $5 a month, and they can get the full interview on the first day, as opposed to waiting 3-4 weeks to get the full interview. Thousands of people have signed up.
Wow.
That's now great. I see how the Amazon Video, Netflix, Disney Plus, now I see why they're putting everything into these subscriptions, because that's where the real money's at.
Yeah, I just started my channel.
Yeah?
Yeah, Freeway.live.
Okay.
Started with the boxing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna venture into other avenues as we grow.
Yeah.
We pimping on a budget.
Pimping on a budget.
Yeah, we still pimping on a budget.
Still pimping though.
Yeah, we pimping on a budget, but we pimping.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. Like, you talk about how you didn't really respect money. There was a video that was going viral where Kodak Black tosses $100,000 into the middle of the ocean. And it's like, okay, well, it gets a lot of attention. Was it real money? Maybe. Maybe not. But tossing $100,000 in the ocean.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's crazy. But then again, how many, I could probably name maybe a dozen rappers that have probably done that at a strip club in the course of a year. Right?
Absolutely.
Now you could say, well, the stripper gets it, not it doesn't just go to waste. But for that person, it's really the same thing. It's $100,000 just thrown away. Poof.
Well, in the strip club, it do a little more for you because the name rings. The girls talk.
Yeah, I guess
you get your likes on the Instagram.
It's a minimal win for a very large cost. It's not worth $100,000.
I mean, I wouldn't do it.
Right.
But I could see reasons why you would do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I would rather do that than throwing it in the ocean. I mean,
no, I feel you. Me too.
Throwing it in the ocean is like, wow. I got a guy. I was in Detroit the other day. I sold one of my T-shirts to a guy, and he get arrested at the airport with my T-shirt on. Right?
I saw the video. Right. He was arguing with the...
Yeah, he's arguing with the cops with my
cops.
T-shirt on. So, sometimes you can get it for... Matter of fact, I got paid for that T-shirt and went viral.
There you go.
So, when you get lucky like that, you just got to keep it going. Keep it going.
You're still in the boxing game.
Yep.
So you got a fighter. I remember you brought him.
I got two.
2 fighters.
Yeah, I signed another kid too.
Okay. How are they doing?
He's 6-0.
6-0.
Yeah, wants to fight Tank.
Aha, Gervonta Tank Davis.
Yeah, well, both of them want to fight Tank.
Yeah, I've interviewed Tank before.
Oh, have you? Did you?
Cool dude. Rough upbringing. Has a chip on his shoulder. But, he does his thing in the ring.
He's killing it right now.
What do you think about the exhibition matches that have been happening since last time?
With Floyd?
Yeah.
He robbing them. Pimping at the highest level.
He made about $100 million, from what I understand.
Pimping at the highest level.
For an easy fight.
I admire what Floyd is doing. You
Right.
know, like I learned a lot of the stuff. I copy his stuff, and what he did with himself is what I'm trying to do with my two guys that I got right now. You know, one of them we just got a draw in Atlanta. You know, I was really disappointed. Thought his performance could have been a little better. He could have put out a little more, but we got lucky. You know, and got the draw. He didn't get the the loss. The other kid Austin, you know, he performed pretty good. We got another big fight coming up in Nashville. You know, I'm promoting the fights now.
Ah.
Yeah, I started joining with all the promoters. So now I'm becoming partners with the promoters now. So it's gonna make life a little easier for me.
Is that where the real money's at?
Nah, I'm not doing this for money.
Nah.
Not really.
You just want to help the fighters.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I don't think that the fighters have the power that they deserve, you know, because they're the ones that's taking all of the punishment.
Yeah.
And when you see what some of these guys have to go through, you know, the dieting before the fights and
the training camps. Yeah.
It's hard, you know. I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, no, they have to transform their body. I mean, Zab Judah is a regular guest on the show, and he said that, you know, to go through a serious training camp where you literally rip your body apart and reassemble it, you know, in preparation for this event.
Yeah,
not
like
a lot of
3 or 4
people can do
days,
it.
no eating.
Yeah.
Maybe just suck an apple juice, you know, take the apple, bite it, suck all the juice out of it, and spit the hard part out.
Yeah, no, I mean, I remember Javante, when I interviewed him, he talked about how in preparation for this one fight, he got into some situation with his brother or some other family members, and they kind of like fucked up his training camp, and there was a bunch of drama that he had to deal with and so forth, and he ended up not making weight. And it was just like all of that building up and contracts and money spent, all of it ended up being for nothing because he can't make weight.
Yeah.
You know, and the fight is off. So what happens? So the fight is set up, and then you go and weigh in, and then when you don't make weight, they just cancel the whole fight?
No, they actually take a cut from your pay. And
how much did you lose by not making weight?
over 100,000.
Over 100,000.
Yeah.
Damn, that's one of them reality slaps right there. Like, thank you, we'll be taking that back.
Yeah, then I had to pay a percentage for the belt that I didn't get. Even when I won, I still didn't get the belt, and I still had to pay the percentage.
I mean, that must have been heartbreaking.
Yeah. It was crazy.
Well, we done had that happen. We go to the fight, and then the opponent don't get in the ring. The opponent just disappears.
You've had that happen?
Yeah.
I mean, boxing is sort of crazy these days. Boxing is sort of like, because besides Floyd, you don't have any real superstars. And Floyd is really essentially retired.
Yeah.
He's not trying to keep the belts or whatever else. I mean, name one superstar besides Floyd right now.
There's none.
That's what I'm saying.
That's why I got into it.
Yeah, I mean, Tyson Fury's cool, but he's not Mike Tyson. He's not Muhammad Ali. He's not Mayweather. He's not even, I wouldn't even put him as a...
He tries, though.
Yeah, he tries.
And sometimes he tries too hard. I think his trying so hard makes him a little weird, you know, like,
right.
Hold up, you know, like I see him coming in the thing with a Muhammad Ali suit on. He got Muhammad Ali painted on his suit, and I'm like, you trying too hard.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you just gotta let it flow. You know, learn how to put yourself in position to where you can just generically let it just come to you. You know, like with me, I never wanted to be who I am today. You know, I never liked cameras. You know, I was
right.
a quiet guy, hid from everybody, didn't want nobody to know me. But the work that I did tossed me into that position. You know, the way that I carried myself tossed me into the position that I'm in right now. And I just accepted it. And this is what I'm trying to teach my young fighters now, that you don't have to try to get that if you do the work, it'll just come to you.
Well, speaking of athletes, there was a big uproar because a female sprinter,
Yeah, I've been trying to get in touch with her.
Shikari Richardson,
Yes.
has been eliminated from competing in the Olympics because she tested positive for marijuana.
Yep. I saw it.
As someone who's obviously, in the marijuana business and everything else like that, do you feel she got robbed? There might be a racial aspect to it? Or, listen, here are the rules. You knew the rules before you got into the sport. You decided to smoke marijuana, off the court, which is not a performance-enhancing drug, but it's still one of the banned substances in terms of the testing. I mean, yes, you lost your mother and you went through some sadness and everything else like that, and we got it. But ultimately, Joe Biden said the rules are the rules. What is your take on it?
Well, I agree with what Joe Biden is saying, and I think she's already taken a pretty positive. I heard on the news the other day where she kind of took a positive attitude to it. What I would suggest to her right now is take lemons and make lemonade. Don't shy away from the marijuana. You use it, go ahead and embrace it all the way. I believe that the marijuana community will accept her and take her in, and she'll never know what might happen if she embraced the marijuana industry, because we think that it's insane that they would have banned her for her smoking marijuana. But those are their rules. Let them have their rules. Create your own game.
Yeah. Although, the Olympics are the Olympics. You can't really create your own Olympics.
I mean, who cares about the Olympics?
Yeah.
Not me. I'm not going to watch it.
Right. I don't really watch the Olympics.
If I had somebody running in there, I might watch it. But if I don't have anybody running in there, the Olympics are not what they used to be, back in the days where everybody sit around their TV waiting to see who's going to be the fastest man in the world or who's going to win the boxing title. It's just not like that anymore. People have other things that they're more interested in than, who won the gold medal at the Olympics.
Now, listen, I feel you. And Nike, I guess, is one of her sponsors. They stand behind her. And look, I could understand like the two sides of it, right? Okay, look, it's not a performance enhancing drug. It's actually legal in America. Probably damn near in the whole country. And it's not like she has an advantage of doing it and so forth. But on the other side, she is putting herself into the realm of the greatest athletes of all time. And this is something that everyone else is taking seriously, that she chose not to take seriously. She went through a moment and decided, hey, I'll just take a few puffs and maybe they won't notice, whatever else. When she has the opportunity to really get to the highest levels. And what it really reminded me of, I remember this one time when I was first started doing, like the first video project I ever did was with the rapper Game, right? Mm-hmm. And I knew one of the guys in his camp, so we came up with this idea, we'll do a mixtape and a DVD. I had this shitty, mini DV camera that was like $200, and I'm just going to film Game as he runs around New York. I'm going to go see his house in Compton and whatever. And it was called The Devil's Advocate. It's really what led into VladTV later on, right? But I remember we all went to MTV because he was performing on MTV back when MTV was more
still doing music.
We're still doing music, right? And I remember it was Game. It was DJ Quick was his DJ. And there was a bunch of other of his entourage and stuff like that. So we're at MTV, and we all decided to go in the bathroom and puff a blunt in the bathroom. In the Viacom building, right? No surprise to anyone, security shows up, and they kick us all out. They actually tried to kick DJ Quick out because he was smoking with us. But someone explained to him that, no, this is Game's DJ, whatever else.
The show got to go on.
The show got to go on. You got to keep him. And I remember I was talking to the guy, like the guy at Aftermath Records, who was basically in charge of all this. And we were talking afterwards. I was like, does this happen a lot with with your artists? He goes, no, because most artists have worked their whole lives up
to
get to a platform like MTV. So the last thing in the world they're going to do, because Game wasn't smoking with us. It was just,
just the crew.
the crew,
Well, but that goes both ways too. Now the Olympics is finna miss maybe one of the greatest athletes they ever had.
Yeah.
And who knows who might now turn off the TV? Who might
Lots of people
say, you know what? Fuck the Olympics. You anti-marijuana. I'm anti-Olympics.
Yeah.
And just don't even pay attention to that shit because it's outdated. That way of thinking is old. It's outdated, and it's time for a new. So I don't think. I mean, if it was me, and that I've grown a lot. It would have been a time that if they told me I could have played tennis in the Olympics, I would have probably been doing cobwebs. But now it's like it's the way I see the world. And if you don't like the way I see it, then you go to your part of the world. I'm going to my part of the world, and we just stay on our own terms.
Yeah. Well, Clarence Thomas of the Supreme Court actually said that marijuana laws on a federal level may no longer be necessary. This is Clarence Thomas. This is one of the most powerful human beings in America.
And one of the conservatives.
And one of the conservatives, a Republican.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Who's basically saying, which is just kind of obvious these days, like, look, if every state is allowing for marijuana to be legal, what's the point of having it be illegal on a federal level? Like, what is the point? Because I think when Obama was in office, didn't he say that they're not putting any more resources into prosecuting like marijuana offenses?
Yep, no more raids.
But there are people, like, for example, Rollo. Remember we talked about his whole story, the guy that's from Atlanta?
Yep.
He's in prison right now. He's talking about, like, this is like his 5th summer behind bars. The trial hasn't started yet. I think he's trying to do a plea deal or something like that. But he's in prison, he's in jail right now because of transporting marijuana. A lot of it, hundreds of pounds on a private jet.
To
Atlanta, where it wasn't legal at the time. So you could say, well, yeah, it's all legal now, but there's lots of people still locked up.
And what's her name just got out of jail. Cavano just got out a couple weeks ago.
Who's this?
Cavano. He was on Smoke with us. He had a life sentence in Alabama.
Okay.
And I think Trump gave him a pardon.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah, he just I met him the other day for the first time. It was crazy. His dad was one of my guys. So we met Saturday at the Kush Stock in San Bernardino, and he came up to me and he's like, "Man, I'm such and such, such and such," and we had a chance to meet. But yeah, it's a conflict, still with this system. Is it legal? Is it not legal? Can it be used here? And I think it's time that we all come to grips that marijuana is here to stay.
I agree. But with it being here to stay, there's also very specific rules. Like I remember, I went to my dispensary, to stock up the other day, and they were like, you could buy a maximum, I think, of an ounce for recreational use, right?
Right.
I think if you have a doctor's note, that number goes up, but whatever. You could only buy an ounce. Reggie Wright Jr., who used to be down with Death Row, head of security, former cop, he went to jail for transporting marijuana. There are very specific rules. Now that it's regulated, you can't just haphazardly move it across the country whenever you feel like it.
Oh, no. They still have restraints on.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So you could go to jail for marijuana right now.
Oh, absolutely.
If you
in a legal state.
Yeah.
If they catch you bringing weed from Oregon into California, you can go to jail for that.
Exactly.
Or you can go to jail if you illegally growing marijuana in California still. Which I doubt if they'll put you in jail, but...
What's the maximum that a person could, like, how much marijuana? Like, you're talking about building this building, right? This grow house.
A legal grow?
Legal grow.
Well, we're allowed to do 22,000 square feet. In my place, we're estimating that we'll be growing anywhere from 1,200 pounds to about 2,100 pounds.
Right.
Every 2 months, 2.5 months.
Right, but if you load all that onto a private jet, and fly it somewhere and dump it all off at a profit,
then you're in
go to
violation. You're in violation of
you're
the
in
law.
violation.
Correct.
So people have to realize that it's not just a free for all.
No.
You got to pay taxes. Let's not forget the tax rate on marijuana
has to be tested.
Has to be tested.
So
Yep.
it's still regulations.
Right. Because I remember, when I first moved to California, when I moved back to California, this was like around 2013. 2013? Yeah. You would go to a dispensary, they would have jars, right?
Yeah,
they'd have a big jar of OG
That was
Kush.
just 3 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
They just stopped
They'd
that
have
recently.
a jar of whatever, purple haze. They'd have whatever. They'd open up the jar, take a scooper,
Or stick their hand in it.
stick their hand in.
I don't
right,
think they stick their
without
hand in
gloves. Grab a handful of buds, throw it on the scale, and keep it moving.
That's how it is in Detroit right now.
Not anymore, though.
Detroit is still
Well,
like
Detroit's like that, but everywhere else,
Oklahoma is
that
like
shit got
that.
a seal. You got to break
Not in
the
Oklahoma
seal.
either. They behind.
They're behind.
Yeah, they still behind.
Yeah, it's very
It's still
much,
like Oregon.
yeah.
I think Oregon is doing that. California, Seattle, Washington. I mean, it's a few states that is doing it right, but a lot of them are still. They caught in old. They haven't. Their system hasn't caught up yet. I mean, even with our system here, it's still not the way that it's going to eventually have to get in order to make the marijuana work the way they want it to work.
Is there going to be like a Philip Morris that just essentially gobbles everyone up, and is going to be this huge $1 trillion corporation that essentially controls everything? Because there's Constellation Brands, and there's different public companies, but I feel like it's still somewhat of a mom and pop kind of operation. Someone comes up with a cool strain, and the strain takes off.
There's somebody's going to learn how to organize it.
Yeah.
Somebody will organize it. It's still unorganized right now.
Yeah.
Most of the people who are making money were the growers, and growers are not really marketers or sellers. I don't know. I get a really good view of the system, because I get to go to the growers' farms, and then I get to go in all the dispensaries all around California, and I do my little signings at the dispensary. So I'm getting a really good bird's eye view of the system. So with that, comes a plan. I get to map out what I see and how I see it going. But yeah, I believe that somebody will eventually consolidate the business, and be able to go to the state and help them with the regulations of how it should be ran. One of my favorite things when I do my seminars out of town is, you got people making regulations who never smoked marijuana and never sold marijuana,
right?
But they're making regulations.
Yep.
I don't think that that's possible. How could somebody that knows absolutely nothing about it make the regulations for it? So I do believe that there is going to be somebody who comes in and puts the whole thing together.
Yeah. Which will probably just make the experience better for everyone.
Absolutely. Well, that's the whole thing.
It'll make it cheaper. It'll make it safer.
If you're not trying to make it better for the customer, then you're doing something wrong.
Exactly.
And right now, the people who are running the system just don't know. They're out of touch. They sit back in their big offices and they collect bundles of money and they think that the world is hunky dory. They don't hear the cries in the dispensaries.
Well, I had Boosie on my show recently, and we talked about the various rappers who are facing RICO charges. And he kind of broke down how the feds clout chase just like everybody else.
Of course.
And
I told you that before.
Yeah.
That they got a list.
Yeah.
And they go by the names. Oh, number 1, we can't catch him. Number 2, number 5 is slipping. So absolutely.
You yourself had a RICO case, right?
I did in L.A. They dropped it, though.
Okay. So you never got convicted of RICO?
No.
Okay. So you yourself have never been convicted of a RICO, but you faced RICO.
Yeah, I got indicted for RICO.
Is that the scariest thing that you could face in the legal system?
Not necessarily. 851 is just as bad.
That's
Continuous criminal enterprise.
CCE, right. But it's up there.
Yeah, I mean,
RICO,
they
CCE.
both carry a life sentence. So what's the difference?
What's the difference, right?
You don't care what the number is.
And we went through some of these cases. Me and Boosie, we're talking about this, and it's like he calls it rapper RICO, where the feds know damn well this rapper is not the head of is not a kingpin of some criminal enterprise. This is a rapper.
When you running a criminal organization, you can't be on go whenever. That's not a RICO. They should name they shit rapper RICOs. Y'all give it
Different set of
rapper
rules.
RICOs. Man, you cannot do it, bro. You cannot. I know about criminal bosses, how they run empires. I know how shit go, Vlad. Us as rappers can't control, we cannot do that. Niggas get RICOs for having handshake.
They're doing shows every week. They're going to the studio. They're going to events. They're not running a drug operation on the side. Now, are they around some people that may be doing it? They're old friends from their neighborhood and so forth? Possibly. Are they actively involved? Usually not. But the feds will still throw them in that RICO just like they're one of the shooters or something like that.
Well, I don't know. The feds are a little more sophisticated than that. They're going to have an overt act. In the feds, in order for you to get indicted, you have to have an overt act.
What's that?
An overt act is something that you did to further the conspiracy. And an overt act could be something as simple as, oh, here are my keys. You're going to get 50 kilos. Here's my keys. That's an overt act.
That simple.
That's an overt act.
That will give you life in prison.
Well, no, you won't get a life sentence in prison if it's only 50 keys.
But if it's a murder,
you'll be looking at like 20.
Still.
Right, because that overt act, whatever that overt act was that you allowed your assistant and see with overt act, you don't have to necessarily even be going to benefit from the overt act.
Wow.
But what they say is
it could just be a favor for someone else.
Yeah, without your assistance, that act wouldn't have happened.
Okay, so for example, Biggs, one of the the three people that started Rockefeller Records, he went to jail. He went to prison for marijuana. And I had him break down what happened. And essentially what happened was he had one guy who wanted to buy a bunch of marijuana. He knew another guy that wanted to sell a bunch. He just connected him on a three-way call.
That's over that.
Right? Just
that's all I did.
Not anything that he even benefited from. Like, he was already rich. They had already sold Rockefeller Records. He was basically just chilling. But he was just doing a favor for a friend, not knowing one of the friends was.
That's the same thing I got a life sentence for.
That's what I'm saying. And he did, I forgot how many years he did, but he did a few years.
Yeah, but that's the same thing I went to prison for.
Just connecting two people.
They call that the broker.
The broker.
Yeah, you brokered the deal.
Right. But in his case, I don't think he was financially benefiting from it.
It don't matter.
In your case, you were.
Yeah, I was going to benefit.
Right.
But it don't matter.
It don't matter. Does it?
It's not the benefit that carries the time. It's the fact that without your assistant, without you being in the middle, bringing these two people together, the deal never would have took place. And that's the overt act. So now your overt act might be one overt act in a list of 40 overt acts. Now, it's according to how much you've done. Now, if you have participated even more, where, say, for instance, you gave them the initial $10,000 to do the rest of the overt acts, then yes, you fit right in with everybody else.
Yeah, scary stuff. It's scary stuff.
When you don't know the law.
When you don't know the law.
But if you know already, you know what you're stepping into, and you know that, you put yourself in the middle. Right,
because you always see this type of janky shit happen with, like, entourages. Like, for example, when Juice WRLD, when he died from the overdose on the plane, on the private jet, because the feds were kind of rushing in, they found a whole bunch of like a ton of marijuana on that jet, right? Probably from one of his guys. Juice WRLD was making millions of dollars. He was the hottest thing smoking. You know, he was doing songs with Eminem, and you know what I mean? Like he was multi-platinum albums, everything else like that. I'm almost positive, I mean, he's dead now, but I'm almost positive he didn't even know about any sort of marijuana on a private jet. That was something completely out of his control. But you got these guys who are like, oh shit, we're flying jets, private jets all the time. We don't have to go through TSA. All right, I could see a little side hustle, you know, that I could pull off here. I could, you know, I get paid okay from this guy, but shit, I could make an extra couple $100,000. Like that. Next thing you know, everyone's tied into this shit. You know, you got all these people on a plane. You got 200 pounds of marijuana. Like, someone has to answer. I mean, there's some guns. Like, you know, someone has to answer for this shit.
Yeah. Well, you know, it amazes me how guys will become legit and want to go illegit.
Yeah.
You know, guys have all this money and yet still they want, instead of bringing the streets up, they go back down to the streets. You know, and we see that a lot with people. You know, it's not the first time that has happened.
Well, you know, Charleston White was on my show, the guy that I mentioned from Dallas again, and he said something kind of interesting. You know, because he had an interesting background. You know, as a teenager, they were basically trying to rob this guy for a starter jacket, and someone else, this white dude, kind of came in to try to stop it, and they ended up killing this guy. And then him and his friends ended up going to prison, you know, for whatever, 20 years. He came out, he works with, like, you know, youth offenders now and speaks in prisons and everything else like that. And from his point of view, he feels that most rappers were never leaders in their hood. And whoever runs that hood will ultimately attach themselves to the rapper in a certain type of way because everyone kind of benefits, right? The rapper has the OG in his hood and he has the muscle and whatever else, and it looks good. It looks good on camera. And the OG's like, oh shit, I could make some legal money with this guy, and you know, I could be his manager or his whatever bodyguard or whatever else. I mean, how many of these street guys end up managing rappers and, you know, end up at some point even turning their life around and becoming completely legit?
Most rappers are not leaders. Most rappers are not leaders in their hood. They got the leaders around them, backing them, right? Most rappers ain't no big dog, homie. They became a big dog from rapping because they got the niggas from the hood behind them. The niggas from the hood behind them that we don't get to see, they get to become important and become hood star because they're attached to the rapper when they go back to the neighborhood. Oh man, he be with Fulio, right? So they need the beef. They need it. So they put the key in the rapper's back. Cause he's not a leader. He don't know how to tell him, nah, homie. We go woo woo. Cause if he say no, oh man, you getting soft, so they gonna stop embracing him. Now he can't talk that gangster tough shit no more. Now he ain't got no rap content to write rap lyrics.
But his point of view is that, like, even though the rapper, you know, like, I mean, I don't know how Meek Mill really, you know, the logistics of what really happens in Philly and Meek Mill, but Meek Mill kind of presents himself like he runs his hood and stuff like that. Now, is that true? Is it not true? I don't know. I don't know Philly. I don't know Meek Mill. But most of these guys present themselves as that.
Right.
But most times they are not. I mean, is that an accurate portrayal?
I believe that's accurate. That's pretty accurate.
So you've seen it happen?
Yeah. I mean, most of the rappers, I mean, where do they get their initial start from? More than likely, it's a local drug dealer. You know, he has the money to pay for the studio time.
Eazy-E.
He has the money to dress him up, buy him the shoes and the costumes. You know, like we was talking about Baby with the Bentleys.
The costumes. Yeah, the costumes, pretty much.
I mean, you need all that. It's part of the dress code. I guess that's what you would call it. You know, so they're the ones with the money to do that. So quite naturally. You know, and I talk about that too when I talk about rappers, why they rap so much about drugs, even though some of them never sold drugs, is because that's how they got their start. You know, that was their first hero. Most black men, the first entrepreneur you're gonna meet is gonna be a drug dealer. If you growing up in the ghetto, the first entrepreneur you're gonna meet is gonna be a drug dealer. I mean, it happened to me. The first real entrepreneurs I met was drug dealers, and I wanted to be like them.
Because in a lot of these neighborhoods, you don't see a lot of black-owned businesses and stuff like that.
Absolutely, it's worse now than even when it was when I was coming up. You know, when I was coming up, it was a couple guys on a tow yard, a filling station now, a couple liquor stores. Now we don't own no liquor stores, no gas stations. I mean, in South Central, there's no black businesses.
Why is that?
I don't know, man. Crack era, you know, that played a toll on it. You know, we thought that we were building economical wealth, but what actually happened is, you know, we created a lot of addicts, you know, who lost their houses, and people who no longer supported black businesses. So a lot of it suffered. The black businesses sold out to other people.
Right. And is it because once someone coming out of a certain area makes a certain amount of money, number one, they no longer want to live in that area. So if they no longer want to live in that area, they may not want to start a business in that area. You know,
that's true too.
Nipsey is very much an anomaly. Someone who actually made a good amount of money, went to go live somewhere else. I don't think Nipsey was living, you know, in the Rolling 60s neighborhood anymore that he was at. But he went back to his old neighborhood and actually started buying up property and started opening up businesses in there. But that usually doesn't happen. You know, a person gets rich off fashion, they'll go open up a store in Fairfax. They're not going to open up a store in Compton.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, it's more profitable.
It's more profitable.
Yeah.
Safer. You know, there's less of a threat of violence and everything else like that. I mean, shit. Nipsey got gunned down in front of his store, like in front of his actual store. Like, if you're not safe in front of your own store, where the hell are you safe?
Yeah. I mean, and that's part of living in South Central LA. You know, that could happen at any given time.
Do you see that changing over time, though? Because at the end of the day, it's still LA real estate. And these neighborhoods do improve over time. And
LA's already improved.
Yeah.
You can't buy a house in LA for less than $600,000.
Yeah. And that's not much of a house either.
No. It's
less than $1 million, you're talking about nothing.
It's probably gonna be a fixer-upper.
It's absolutely gonna be a fixer-upper.
Yeah. So absolutely that is changing. But and if you don't keep up with that change, then you find yourself out of that system.
Yeah.
Which is what happened to the black community in South Central LA now.
Yeah. Did you know Eazy-E at all when you were coming up?
When I got out of prison in '93, we spoke on the phone.
Really? About what?
About the record business.
Aha. And he was already, what year was this, first of all?
93.
93. So he was already popping.
He was already, him and Cube had already broke up.
Yeah.
Dre was gone.
Bone Thugs was probably popping during that time.
Yeah, Bone Thugs was popping.
He was beefing with Death Row.
Yeah, he was beefing with Death Row. So it was during that time.
And where did that conversation go? Just a quick conversation?
Yeah, I was trying to align myself with him. Mm-hmm. I was trying to align with whoever I could. One of my secrets is that I align myself with people that are doing the things that I want to do. And I was trying to make the contact with him to do that. We talked about meeting, but I still had the case pending in Texas. Mm. So before I could really, reel him in, I was back in prison. I was only out on bail.
Aha. So you think what happened if you would have stayed out?
Yeah, if I wouldn't have went to prison, man, I blew it. I let them trick me out of.
Right, because you had that big concert hall.
Yeah.
That you owned that you ended up losing.
Bigger than that, though, man. Fade took me to Jimmy Iovine. I sit down with Jimmy Iovine.
Wow. Okay.
And
that's where Dre made all his money.
Yeah, well, he took me. Death Row was still on the other side. This was when they were in Wilshire, I think, at the time, right on Wilshire Boulevard, in one of the high rises. And Fade took me. I don't know if you know who Fade Devion is.
I don't.
Fade used to work at Lao Records. He's the one that took the Alcoholics to Lao.
Oh, okay. That's my old stomping ground.
Yeah, he took the Alcoholics to
Lao
Lao.
Records,
He was.
SOC, yeah.
I think he was the head promoter over at Lao.
Aha. Okay.
So he took me. Had got the Alcoholics signed to Lao Records. So he took me up to Jimmy Iovine. And me and Jimmy and him sit in Jimmy's office and we talked, and he told Jimmy who I was and that I was home and da-da-da-da-da, that I had the theater. And Jimmy asked me, what you gonna do? And I didn't give him an answer, because at that time I really didn't know. So I'd rather kept my mouth shut than to say something. But anyway, I got set up on this case before I went back to him.
Yeah.
And I just had so many opportunities that I hadn't exercised at that time. And I could only imagine, had I not went back to prison, where I would be at. At my theater, I had everybody coming down. Ant Banks.
Too Short?
Did Short come down here? I don't think Short came down then.
You said Ant Banks, the two of them rock heavy.
Yeah, they was together.
Yeah.
Mostly producers. I was more. I came to the understanding early on that the producers was easier to get in contact with than the rappers were. They were more receptive.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
And in my opinion, the producers was more valuable to me than the rappers were. I felt that a good producer could create a good rap, make the right sound for him.
Yeah, look at Dre.
Yeah, so
Look at
I was
Timbaland.
more so concentrating on the
Pharrell.
on the
music.
producers. I met up with Cube. We sit down and talk. But at the end of the day, I was more like Chocolate. I was on Chocolate, Johnny J. I was on those guys more so than the artists, because I had a couple kids already that I was already messing with.
Yeah, rest in peace, Johnny J.
Yeah.
He died, I think, in a jail cell, actually.
Yeah?
Yeah, I remember Edie from the Outlaws, kind of broke down that whole story. How he got locked up for something weird, and then they found him dead in the cell.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was talented too.
Yeah, he was. What I didn't know, I actually watched this Instagram live video you posted, I think yesterday, and you and Boosie actually know each other.
Boosie used to call me in jail.
I never knew that until earlier today.
Yeah, Boosie used to call me when he was in jail. I've sent Boosie my 3 favorite books. When I used to talk to Boosie, he didn't know how big he was going to be. It was amazing to me that he didn't know that he was going to be the #1 rapper when he got out of prison. And I used to tell him, like, man, they waiting on you out here.
Yeah, I mean, he was facing murder. He was on death row, literally, the real death row.
Yeah.
In
Well, this was
Louisiana.
after he had already been through all that. He only had, like, when we started talking, he had about a year, maybe 2 years left.
Oh, he had already beaten that case.
He'd already beat the case.
Oh, but he had some other stuff.
He was just waiting his time out. He was doing the end of his
He
bid.
was like smoking weed in jail and stuff like that. So he probably had a few violations.
We never talk about that. He never told me that, but
Yeah, he mentioned that. On camera.
but yeah, we did. I was hoping that I would have got to be his manager. That's what I was talking to him about. Let me manage him, and it didn't work out. But yeah, we talked quite a bit.
Yeah.
But I talked to a lot of them like that. Turk. I used to write Turk too, and Turk used to call me.
Yeah.
Because
actually talked to
I
Turk the other
understood.
day, Yeah.
See, I understood what happened with my situation.
Mm-hmm.
I knew how jail brought me more to the spotlight. With the news media talking bad about me, and it was crazy when it first really hit me that all the things that the news media was saying bad that the streets loved. So I knew that the same thing was going to happen with Boosie.
Yeah, I mean, and you kind of see it these days with like a Bobby Shmurda or a Rowdy Rebel or whoever, Kodak Black when he got out, when Lil Wayne, when he beat his case, Bill Cosby. Like you get, I don't know, like people
I don't know, Bill. It ain't gonna work the same for Bill. I don't think.
What do you mean?
I don't think Bill is gonna have the same attraction that Boosie had. Boosie's situation was more street stuff.
Yeah.
More things that the rap community embraces than what
he beat a murder. He beat a murder, didn't tell on anyone.
Exactly.
Came out and became bigger than ever. And like I said, these days, in terms of my regular guests, Boosie blows everyone's numbers away. Like people just really gravitate towards him and what he has to say.
They love him.
You know what I mean? And the music, the music does well also. But I think he's more popular for his personality than his music. You know, I mean, these days. Like he has hit records, but it's not like he's dropping these huge hits, like he was, like Wipe Me Down and stuff like that. He's still doing his thing, but I think people are just so attracted to his personality. And even when his Instagram gets shut down every couple months, he pops a new one up and everyone comes joins that. I just didn't know you guys know each other.
Yeah, we know it. We did a couple little parties together. People booked him and they brought me out at the same time. I think the first time we met was in person. It was in Lake Charles.
Yeah.
Once he got out of prison, our contact kind of faded.
He's hard to. The thing about Boosie, as much business as we've done together, he just hits me when he's ready. You know what I mean? Like I'll hit him and he won't answer back, and then out of the blue he'll just pop up like, "Yo, I'm ready." Boosie sort of just functions off his own schedule.
Yeah, I tried to get him to do a book. I thought him doing a book would have been a great seller. I think he would have sold 1 million copies if he'd have did it when he first got out. A nice book with some nice pictures and everything. And he had talked about letting me do it for him. Let me put it together for him, but it never materialized.
Yeah. I'll mention you next time we do an interview.
It's all good. He called me a couple months back He called me about 5 months ago. Like you said, he'll call me. I can't call him. He calls me.
That's just how he is. And like I said, he rocks with us. For years now, heavy. But that's just. Boosie just chases a bag all the time. I don't know anyone that really just has that money chase mentality as much as Boosie. He got shot. Boosie got shot in the leg, had like 2 operations, and still went to a show, performed at a show, and was in so much pain that he cried. But he said that when that backhand money came, he smiled. Most people who have a big mansion, 10 cars, millions of dollars would have been like, oh, okay. I'm just going to heal up. I just got shot for the first time ever. I'm fucked up. I'm in a wheelchair. I'll make up these shows. I'll give back the deposits if necessary and whatever. I'm going to spend 6 months recuperating. No. Boosie, I think a couple of weeks later, was doing shows again. Mm-hmm. He's just built different. I'm not built like that. But he is. And he has that type of hustle. Granted, he has a ton of kids, you know what I'm saying, that he wants to really spoil and everything else like that. But I don't even think it's really about the kids. I think it's just about him. He's just out there chasing that bag all the time.
Yeah, well, he got that street mentality.
Yeah.
And that's the way street hustlers do it. They just want to continue to hustle. I look at myself almost the same way. If I'm not able to hustle, then I don't know.
Yeah, I feel you.
I just don't feel right.
Last question. So Pop Smoke was killed in Los Angeles a while back. They caught the young kids who actually did it. Some of them are like underage. And it was just announced today that the prosecution will not be seeking the death penalty for the people who killed Pop Smoke. You personally, do you feel like there should be a death penalty? Or across the board, you think that the death penalty should be abolished?
I think the death penalty should be abolished. It's not seek. I think seek is the correct word I'm trying to use. It's another word that I would like to use. It's not applied equally. And when you look at the stats of the people on death row, it looks like it could be racist. If you're a black guy and you kill a white guy, you're more likely to go on death row. Mm-hmm. if you're a white guy and you kill a black guy, you probably won't go on death row for that murder. So until
or a black guy killing a black guy, like in this case.
Exactly. So when you look at the stats, it doesn't add up, you know, and it doesn't deter murders, you know. The states that have the death penalty that does the most killings have the most murders in those states, you know.
Yeah.
So it's the fact that it doesn't necessarily deter crime.
Yeah, I mean, me and Mark Lamont Hill got into like a heated argument about this, and he was more equipped than I was to talk about it because I was really just going off the cuff. And he said, well, what about the people who end up getting executed and you find out after the fact that they're innocent, which happens all the time.
Yes.
Right? So there's that, you know.
But you're willing to give the state absolute power to kill its citizens through the death penalty.
Well, it's not absolute power because, you know, even putting someone on death row is, you know, takes decades.
Right. Because we get it wrong so much.
They stay on death row for decades until, like, you know, I mean, a person doesn't get a trial, then get killed a month later. That never happens.
Well, thankfully, you know, the Innocence Project estimates that as many as, I think the number is either 20 or 25% of people on death row might be innocent. Even knowing the number could be that high, you're still okay with killing people?
I mean, I'm not familiar with that number. If you're saying that's what it is, I'd have to look into it.
Well, let me ask you, what margin of error would you be comfortable with?
I mean, obviously it would be zero.
Right, but you concede that it's impossible for the number to be zero, right?
It is impossible for the number to be zero.
So just by agreeing to the death penalty, you're conceding to a world where people who didn't do the crime are going to get executed.
I mean, it's an interesting point. I see where you're going with this, and I don't have a good answer. And then you look at the other side, like, you know, should someone like a Timothy McVeigh, you know, who did the Oklahoma City bombing, should he get life in prison or should he get the death penalty? When it's, you know, established beyond a shadow of a doubt that he was the one who did it. He's the one that killed whatever hundreds of people, or the, you know, or Dylan Roof, who went into the black church and just started shooting everyone to try to start a racial war, where it's, you know, whatever. I mean, do you feel that those people should have gotten life in prison? Or do you think that they should have been, you know, I don't know what's happening with Dylan Roof, but
McVeigh got killed. They killed
McVeigh. McVeigh got killed. That's what I'm saying. He got like a lethal injection. You know, do you think that McVeigh getting killed was a proper punishment, or based on what you said, he should have just gotten life in prison as well?
I mean, is it a proper punishment for killing somebody? Can you say what's proper and what's not proper?
Good point.
You know, who am I to be the judge? You know, but I think him sitting in prison for life would definitely give him something to think about. You know, now if it was a possibility that he may get out, that's different. But if you give him life without the possibility,
triple life plus 200 years, like,
yeah, if you give him without the possibility of getting out of prison, then I think that you know, all the statistics show that killing people doesn't stop crime. It only gives revenge to whoever was seeking that revenge.
This is true.
So
this is true.
I don't think that if we're not going to have death penalty, it's for everybody, you know.
Right. But, you know, you were given life in prison and you beat it.
Yeah. Well, I don't think that, and I'm biased too about drugs, so, you know, I don't think that selling drugs should award a life sentence, you know, because when you sell drugs, it's really a victimless crime. They consider that a victimless crime because
I can see that. Yeah.
The person who you sold the drugs to is not going to come to court and say, oh, yeah, he sold me drugs and I didn't like it.
No, he's willingly buying the drugs from you.
He's willingly buying it.
Yeah.
He's a grown person. They made a conscious decision to use drugs. I don't think that the system should be allowed to dictate to people who can use drugs and who can't use drugs. I mean, it's our bodies. We should be allowed to do whatever we want to do to our bodies.
It's a great point. If you want to do crack, you do crack. If you want to do heroin, ecstasy, opioids, no one's usually forcing you to do this stuff.
Exactly.
You want to get high. And, you know, I mean, like, I had an interview with Lamar Odom, you know, who at one point was addicted to crack. And he grew up with an addict father, and in Queens, where there's crack addicts everywhere, where, he even said, he goes, you know, it's not like I didn't know what the repercussions were for doing this, but I still did it, right? It's not like, oh, I had no idea that I was smoking a joint and it happened to have cocaine. No, it's like he knew what he was doing, And people still choose to do it because
That's what they want to do.
people want to get high.
Right.
And people will always want to get high.
And we're not the only animals that get high.
Right.
Other animals,
Birds get high. Yeah.
they seek out different fruit to get them
get
drunk
high,
and
yeah.
get them high. So
This is true.
not wanting to deal with reality is something that, everybody suffers from that.
There you go.
So I don't think that we should be punishing. In my theory though, the user, the middleman, and the grower, they're all the same. They all play a role in the game.
I agree.
And without one, there's no other.
Yep.
And we should be treated as one.
That's how we're going to end it. Great way to end it as well. Freeway Ricky, always a pleasure. Until next time. Peace.